last night in the opening frame, the Suns put up 36 points, which was at the root of an offensive rating in the half court that was 140.9 in that opening frame. They were able to ingratiate or re-ingratiate Bradley Beal into the mix in doing so. So I want to talk about some of the ways he was featured within that process, as well as how the Suns generally operated in the half court in that opening frame. So let's go ahead and dive into the film. First play here, we're going to be looking at sideline out of bounds. This is an offensive context that the Suns have been taking full advantage of. They've been one of the most effective in the NBA in points per possession off of sideline out of bounds. And something they like to get into a lot is three-player actions here. Typically, it's going to be a screen that's followed by a handoff for the person that's inbounding. Usually that would be Devin Booker, but especially of late, it's been Kevin Durant. It could also sometimes be Eric Gordon or Grayson Allen doing so. Nonetheless, here is Kevin Durant, and we're going to see the advantage that it creates as teams are starting to game plan for it. So they're starting to get reaction advantage opportunities in terms of looks and shot quality. And here we're going to see a little bit of a counter to that. So it's just going to be Kevin Durant using that screen initially, like I mentioned, with Grayson Allen peeling in. So instead of going and getting the ball from Nurkic off the handoff, Kevin Durant's just going to cut through. And we're going to see his gravity just resulting in a wide open opportunity here early for Grayson Allen as he knocks down the first of 8 on a career shooting night from deep. Just the little things that, again, just teams game planning and you just taking advantage of what they're planning for and just getting a quick reaction advantage and getting open, quick, easy looks like this, especially early in the game, is very important. And then here is going to be their first true offensive set in the game. So we're going to see Grayson Allen ultimately flow off of a double screen. And then we see a back screen here from Bradley Beal for Kevin Durant. That gets a switch. And then we're going to see a screen, like screen to screener here. As Nurkic sets the second screen for Grayson Allen, he's going to flip and then set a second screen immediately following that for Bradley Beal. This is veer action. A screen on ball followed by a screen being set off ball. So we see some screen to screener here. It ends up being veer out of double screen, or 77 if you will. And then that flows into a rescreen as you see this initial under here from Zach LaVine. And this is allowing for Bradley Beal to get downhill. He's going to end up threatening downhill and engaging Vucevic. That ends up getting 2 to the ball essentially in terms of the Suns flowing into an automatic. And then we're going to see him hit Nurkic here. And what I like here about the pace and everything involved with this in terms of how the pieces are being used and moved around the chessboard is Nurkic not using that little extra dribble that he likes to get into when he's in traffic. Catches it, keeps it high, pivots himself in a position, and then finishes high as well. This is just really, really good. And in addition to that, speaking of really, really good, is the Suns using Nurkic to initiate offense. We saw a little bit of that yesterday, and we see it here. Grabbing a rebound and going, and look at the pace that it generates. Rather than trying to find a guard to pitch it to or hit ahead to, it just flows into a quick handoff here between him and Bradley Beal in the empty corner. That's going to see an initial under, and just like on the last play, you see them flow into the rescreen as an automatic. And look at the shot quality that it generates for Bradley Beal, who's wide open here. Now, he misses this, but again, it's just the process and the shot quality that they're generating and how they're featuring both Bradley Beal and Jusuf Nurkic within the offense. And speaking to that, again, we see more of the same here, this time off a sideline out of bounds. Granted, this one's not taking place in the half court, but we see Nurkic, again, initiating the offense intentionally. And we're going to talk about the embarrassment of riches on display here. As you can see, on one corner on the outer third to his right, he has Kevin Durant loading up to come off of a down screen and delay to come into zoom action. On his left side, he has Bradley Beal waiting for the same. And again, just the embarrassment of riches in terms of optionality and the court balance within that. This is just really good, and it's going to be hard for teams to guard and keep up with this. And we end up seeing Nurkic elect to go to the left, which is where Bradley Beal is. He flows off of the screen into the handoff, and then he turns the corner, gets a paint touch. But again, because it's Bradley Beal, we see him engaging Vucevic just enough to where on the roll, we're going to see Nurkic just kind of set up shop right at the restricted area. Gets this very, very good seal. Just taking advantage of the leverage in terms of angle that he has off of that roll. And because Vucevic had to show a little bit with Bradley Beal turning the corner some with Kobe White, that ends up ultimately resulting in an easy dump-off pass here from Bradley Beal as Nurkic is set up shop in the restricted area, and he's able to get up another quick deuce. And now let's look at some of this right here. We get into a little bit of delay action here, as we can see Grayson Allen pitch it over to Nurkic, and then we're going to see another 3-player action taking place on the outer third of the floor. But let's pay attention to who is involved here. It's Bradley Beal screening for Kevin Durant. This is honestly putting the defense in a situation where they just truly can't be right. There's a lot of counters they can get into off of this, and this is not even a counter on this one. This is just taking advantage of the known coverage and playing out of that. So we know they're putting at least Vucevic at the level of the screen, if not putting 2 to the ball when Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal are coming off, based off of what we've seen early on in this film session. So in anticipation of that and understanding that, look at Nurkic operating off of his IQ and feel. So he gets the pitch over to Durant, allows for the defense to do what they do in terms of holding their attention. He's got the attention of multiple players. In addition to that, because of the proximity of it and who's involved as a screener and ultimately spacing above the free throw line and above the break, is Bradley Beal. Kobe White doesn't want to do too much to give up a wide open look from being this close one pass away, and he's not even going to get a bump or any type of tag on the roller. So Nurkic, and again, because of the pace he goes at it with, in addition to all that I just mentioned, he's able to roll right into space. He's able to get a catch and a paint touch, and does all of this before the low man can even get into the picture, being DeMar DeRozan here. And again, it's just the embarrassment of riches in terms of assets and the way that the Suns can compromise a defense by dictating with where they're putting their chess pieces on the board in the half court. And here we're going to see a little bit more of the same. Off a sideline out of bounds, we're going to see Grayson Allen coming in for the 3-player action. There's a screen. It's going to flow into the dribble handoff. And then again, look at what we see here. It's 2 to the ball. As we see Kevin Durant come off and engage Vucevic just enough. As he's engaging Vucevic, though, let's pay attention to what's going on the second side. But even before that, let's talk about the defensive coverage from the Bulls. So if we see any type of activity where a guard or any player is coming off of a screen and they're engaging the big defender who's Vucevic here in the middle of the floor from Kevin Durant, that defensive coverage automatically means that there's going to have to be some type of help from the second side that's peeled in early to take over for the roller. Here we can see that's initially DeMar DeRozan as we rewind it back, but as the Suns kind of flow through a little bit more, we see a bit of an exchange here from Bradley Beal and KBD, and that's ultimately going to pin now Kobe White as a low man, as we see Nurkic getting into this role. In addition to all of that, we're going to see Kevin Durant playing with his eyes and allow for the play to continue to develop, to open up his players and teammates as much as he possibly can. And in addition to that, the manipulation of space that I talked about yesterday on Twitter. We're talking about the Suns manipulating space with exit screens and counters and exchanges and things like that. We see both. We get an exchange here, like I mentioned, putting Kobe White, tasking him now as a low man as he toggles defensive principal roles. And then we see an exit screen in addition to that from K-to-base Diop, playing off of the eyes and the advantage that Kevin Durant is. And that's ultimately going to set up shot for Bradley Beal, second side, to knock down a wide open three-pointer. And then here we're going to see a little bit more of what I've also been hoping to see as the Suns get their pieces back in the mix, and that's them getting into pistol action. Pistol action, not just with the guards, but also with Nurkic. But here it's going to be a small. And we see the pistol screen set from KBD, and he's going to flow through to the second side. That's going to now open up an empty corner pick and roll between Bradley Beal and Nurkic. And you can see, again, as we talked about earlier, we see him coming off and he's able to engage Vucevic just enough. Now, there's no advantage created here because Kobe White's peeled in early. He's on high alert as a low man here. Good job on him. But now the Suns are going to flow to the second side and they're going to keep some pace. And look at what that ends up turning into as Bradley Beal respaces after the pass to Durant and it gets to the second side. That's now a small screen that's going to be coming in, being set from Grayson Allen for Kevin Durant, an inverted pick and roll. And then off the inverted, we see just enough of a touch. And then we ultimately see a show and recover here from Zach LaVine. Again, just giving extra attention to Durant to get the ball out of his hands. And Durant quickly processes the show and recover from Zach LaVine. In addition to Grayson Allen slipping or ghosting out of that screen off of the touch. Great job getting a reaction advantage from the Suns here. And because of that, and the pace at which it happens, that now puts the Bulls' defensive dominoes to fall. As we see, now they're starting to get compromised. There's an advantage for Grayson Allen wide open at the dome for a three if he wanted to take it. But that's going to pull in DeMar DeRozan to step over to help at least the slightest bit as Zach LaVine tries to recover from his show. That's going to be followed by a great connecting and +1 pass here from Grayson Allen. And we're going to see Bradley Beal, like we saw in the last clip, again on the second side, wide open for a 3. And that's a layup for him. And then here we're going to see a little bit more of Grayson Allen just being a piece, a great puzzle piece for this Suns team. He just does little things that keep him in positions to be successful. And here, this is nothing complex. He just simply doesn't stop moving. So as we see him off of the kick from Durant, he gets a drive. His drives and his paint touches are so good for this team. But what he does after those and what he does on second drives and things like that are equally as impactful and effective. We see him get off of this drive initially to compromise the defense. He sucks him in kind of like a vacuum, and he just doesn't stop moving, relocates off of that, and he's able to get himself wide open for this 3, and he deposits another 3, again on a career night for him from deep. Now, this is just a quick peek into just the Suns' offensive playbook, kind of opening up a little bit more. I've talked about plenty of times how the wide rejects typically go into 3-player actions, whether that be Spain pick and roll or even zoom action from the middle third of the floor. This time, however, and on the live broadcast, you can actually hear the Bulls coaching staff screaming, "Stack, stack, stack," meaning Spain pick and roll is coming off of just seeing it off of game planning and watching film of the Suns. However, they countered to something different here. This ends up turning into Grayson Allen emptying and clear cutting, to the opposite side of the floor, and it turns into a wide pin down for Kevin Durant from Jusuf Nurkic. And look at the advantage that's going to be created as we see Alex Caruso loading up to top lock, in addition to Andre Drummond loading up to help topside as Caruso is going to attempt to navigate the screen. Kevin Durant, understanding and never fighting pressure, just counters that pressure by releasing, kind of like a receiver, into open space. That's going to ultimately net him a catch at the nail. And again, because everybody's on high alert, because it's Kevin Durant, this ends up resulting in a foul here from Kobe White. A little bit too overzealous on the catch. And then here, we're going to kind of let the volume take over here so you can kind of hear the communication going on. Suns getting into another sideline out of bounds, and we're going to hear Alex Caruso barking out orders as, again, teams are on high alert for the Suns and their sideline out of bounds effectiveness.
Javon Carter checking in. Another defender. Yep.
And as we see the layup here on the back cut from Josh Okogie, this is not the intended play, but this is a counter from the Suns as they see what the Bulls are doing. So we see, first of all, Jusuf Nurkic kind of directing traffic personnel-wise, telling Grayson Allen, hey, kick out to that opposite corner. We're going to let Okogie rock in the 3-player action here on this side. In addition to that, we see Alex Caruso communicating to his teammates, Andre Drummond, and ultimately Zach LaVine, who's guarding Josh Okogie, what's going on. He's just basically letting them know, hey, somebody's going to be coming in, peeling in to set a quick screen on Durant. I'm navigating that. Push the catch from Jusuf Nurkic up as high as you possibly can, keeping that away from the basket as far as you can and helping to keep the Bulls in an advantageous position and defensively. Ultimately, the Suns end up countering with the personnel involved, and that's going to change up things. As we can see, before Zach LaVine is even ready to defend, we see Nurkic selling in for leverage on the screen. That puts him completely out of position, and Andre Drummond's not even thinking to help on this down screen here because, like you just heard from Alex Caruso, he's supposed to be pushing up the catch point. So he's expecting his catch point, and Zach LaVine's just kind of in no man's land here. And ultimately, he's going to net Josh Okogie a wide open layup here off the sideline out of bounds. And then here on this final play, we're going to see just a little bit more fun here. It's Eubanks is going to be in on this play, and we're just going to see him going into a handoff here with Kevin Durant. That's going to get him, obviously, two to the ball on Durant as we see Andre Drummond flying up here from below the elbow, below the free throw line, to all the way up to the level of the screen to help to flatten out and help aid Alex Caruso on his navigating of the screen from Eubanks. Eubanks does a great job getting into that channel of the floor and gets a great catch near the nail. And then it's quick processing from that point. And this is just how the Suns are going to continue to beat teams without playing off of any type of set. This is just pick and roll, or basically pick and roll, a little bit of a handoff that flows in the pick and roll. Nonetheless, it's a 2-player action. This is not a play. This is just playing basketball, playing and read and react. And the quickness with which they're playing with it is just what's really going to truly be a weapon for this team as they really start to get their pieces in order. And just looking at Eubanks and just generally looking at the Suns offense, in these situations, when their ball movement is faster and quicker than the rotations of a defense, that's where they're really going to be optimizing the pieces and just generating all types of high green shot quality. As we see here for Yuta Watanabe, he's going to knock down his three. Very good offensive process in the first quarter of this game from the Suns. They got to clean up the defensive side in tandem with that. Nonetheless, it's just good to see where this offense is headed after what we've been seeing with the pieces like Bradley Beal and Devin Booker not in the rotation for a majority of the season to this point.